Do you know what the word Zion and Zionist actually means? In today's toxic culture, the word Zionist has become some sort of a term of scorn and disgust. But let me share with you the actual meaning of the word Zion and Zionist after I share with you this very profound thought by Alistair Heath, editor of the Sunday Telegraph. Listen to
There
this.
is something about Israel that makes people uncomfortable, and it is not what they say it is. They will point to politics, settlements, borders, and wars. But if you scratch a little beneath the layer of anger, you will discover something deeper. Discomfort. Not with what Israel does, but with what Israel is, writes the British editor. A country so small shouldn't be so strong. Period. Israel has no oil, no extraordinary natural resources, a population the size of a medium-sized American city. It is surrounded by enemies, hated by the United Nations, attacked by terrorism, condemned by celebrities, boycotted, vilified, attacked, and yet it thrives like there's no tomorrow. In the military, in medicine, in security, in technology, in agriculture, in intelligence, in morality, and in an uncapturable willpower. They turn a desert into a blooming field. They produce water from the air. They intercept missiles in midair. They rescue hostages from under the noses of brutal regimes. They survive wars that were supposed to destroy them, and win. The world sees it and fails to understand. So they do what people do when they encounter power. They don't have the tools to understand. They assume it's a fraud, that it's thanks to American aid, that it's thanks to a foreign lobby, that it's because of oppression, that it's thanks to theft, that it's some dark conspiracy that gave the Jews such power, that it's blackmail, because God forbid that it's something else. God forbid that it's real. God forbid that they deserve it. Or worse, that it's fate. The Jewish people were supposed to disappear a long, long time ago. This is how the history of persecuted, enslaved, and hated minorities is supposed to end. But the Jews did not disappear. They returned home. They rebuilt their country. They revived their language. And they brought their dead back to life, with memory, identity, and power. This is not normal. This is not political. This is biblical. There is no secret code that explains how a people returns to their land after 2,000 years. There is no rational path from poison gas to global influence. And there is no historical precedent for someone surviving the Babylonians, the Romans, the Crusaders, the Inquisition, the pogroms, and the Holocaust. And still coming to work on a Sunday in Tel Aviv. Israel is irrational. There is a war, and the Israelis are doing everything to return to it. Israel is not rational, unless you believe in something beyond simple arithmetic. And that's what's driving the world crazy. Because if Israel is real, if this ancient, hated, impossible nation is truly chosen, protected and thriving, maybe God is not a legend. Maybe he's still part of the story. Maybe history isn't random. Maybe evil doesn't have the last word. Maybe the Jews are not just a people, but a testimony. And this is what people cannot bear. Because if they admit that Israel's survival is not just impressive, but divine, everything changes. The moral conscience must be readjusted. The assumptions about history, about power, about justice, collapse. They understand that they do not see the end of an empire here, but the beginning of something eternal. So they deny it, they slander it, and they are angry about it, because it is easier to call a miracle a fraud than to admit that God keeps his promises. Yes, he keeps them. Alistair Heath concludes the article and reveals the truth behind the hatred.
Unbelievable writing. To realize that the Jewish people are a living miracle that defies rhyme and reason. It defies nature and projection. Any actuarial scientist would be dead wrong in the water if he had to predict about the options of the Jewish people's survival, because the word Zion means a sign. The word Zion in Hebrew, tziyun, is a marker. It's something which indicates something that's hidden from the eye. For example, when you have a tombstone and you put up a monument over the tombstone, it's called a tziyun. When you put the deceased's name on the tombstone, you're saying that this tombstone is not the dead person. It's just representing something which is beyond what the eye is able to see. It's the person that's buried beneath the ground. Another time that word is used is when you have a result on an exam. you have a test, a math test, and you get 97 or 67%, that result is called a tziyun. It's a mark, because that number is not reflective of your effort. It's reflective of that which is beyond what meets the eye. It does represent the effort. It's not the substance itself. It represents the effort which cannot be seen by the human eye. When we speak about Zion, we're essentially saying that this is a land and a people that whose essence cannot be seen by the naked human eye. It's a nation that runs on miracles, a nation that is founded on divine promises. In fact, the land that is promised by God Almighty, and that's why it's called the Promised Land, a land that's promised to the chosen people. When you use the word Zion, you are referring to that which is beyond the eye. You're referring to God. So when you say I'm a Zionist, what you're essentially saying is that you're believing in God. And I'm not talking about the modern Zionists, the secular Zionists who founded the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, at the turn of the 20th century and maybe just before. I'm talking about the biblical Zionists, because the word Zion comes from Torah. It comes from the Bible, where someone once asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a group of students actually asked the Rebbe if he was a Zionist. And he said, if the land of Israel is just about a group of Jews living in one place, then I'm not a Zionist. But if it's about a Jewish state, then absolutely I am a Zionist. What this means is that the true meaning of the word Zion is a reference to God Almighty, which is the secret behind our astronomical and astonishing success, our ability to survive against all odds and despite all horrific circumstances, despite all those nemesis that tried to destroy us, who brought us to the brink of extinction. It was only God that helped us survive. So when somebody tells you that they're anti-Zionist, what essentially they're saying is that they're anti-God. And when someone says that they are a Zionist, it means that they are in favor of God, that they believe that this land was given by God to the chosen people as the promised land, and nobody is able to ever fight against God. People have tried throughout the ages. In the Tower of Babel, the early story of Genesis, the people after the Noah's flood, they decided to build a tower that they would fight from it against God Almighty. And they became the generation that was scattered. They were afflicted with different languages, and they were no longer able to communicate with each other. There's no way to fight against God. You might look like you're succeeding with small-term gains, but ultimately at the end of the day, God always prevails. Don't be on the losing side of history. The Jewish people have outlived every single one of their enemies, and that is nothing short of an open miracle, Zion, where God is hiding in plain sight. He can't be easily seen, but a little bit of thought helps us understand the presence of God. Make sure that you, your family, your friends are on the right side of history. Be a biblical Zionist. Stand with Israel, stand with God, and God will stand with you.